The restaurant buzzed with life. Silverware clinked against fine china, and the chatter of wealthy diners filled the space. I stood at the head of the table, my fingers trembling against the glossy wrapping paper of the gift box in front of me. 17 pairs of eyes locked onto me. Friends, family, even a few strangers craning their necks from nearby tables. It was my 21st birthday, and the weight of their stares pressed against my chest. Claire's perfume, sharp and overwhelming, lingered in the air as she leaned forward in her seat. My stepmom's voice sliced through the noise like a knife. "Go on, Ellie. Open it. I spent weeks picking this out just for you." Her lips curved upward, but her eyes stayed cold, like she was daring me to react. I wasn't new to Claire's games. 3 years of her subtle cruelties had taught me to expect the worst. But that night, in front of everyone, something inside me shifted. Some people think revenge is about anger, a burst of rage that burns out fast. But real revenge? It's about patience. It's about waiting for the perfect moment to turn the tables. And Claire? She had no idea her moment was coming. 3 years ago, my world broke apart. My mom passed after a long illness, and her absence left a hole nothing could fill. My dad tried to move on, but he did it too fast. Barely 6 months later, he married Claire. She swept into our lives with her polished smile and designer handbags, charming everyone who didn't live under our roof. To the outside world, she was perfect, a devoted wife, a caring stepmom. But behind closed doors, she was a master of cruelty disguised as kindness. Claire had a way of twisting words. If I forgot to do the dishes, she'd sigh dramatically and say, "I guess I'll just clean up after you again, Ellie. It's fine." If I got a good grade, she'd nod and mutter, "Well, that's surprising, isn't it?" She'd plant doubts, make me question myself, until I felt like I was always one step behind. Then there was Tara, my stepsister. A year older than me, she was Claire's shadow, always ready to amplify her mother's games. Tara would forget to invite me to family outings, then post photos online with captions like, "Best day with my real family." My dad, buried in his work, didn't notice. He'd pat my shoulder and say, "You're tough, Ellie. You'll figure it out." The house became a battlefield. I kept my head down, stayed quiet, but every day felt like walking through a minefield. Claire's voice, Tara's laughter, they chipped away at me. I started to feel like a stranger in my own home. But there was one moment that confused me. Last year, when I caught a bad flu, Claire showed up at my bedside with soup and medicine. She didn't say much, just left them on my nightstand and walked out. For a second, I wondered if I'd misjudged her. Was there a heart buried under all that venom? That question lingered, but it didn't stop what came next. Back to that birthday dinner. The box sat in front of me, wrapped in silver paper with a perfect bow. The restaurant lights gleamed off its surface, and the table fell silent. I tore the paper slowly, my hands steady despite the knot in my stomach. Inside was a sweater, bright green, covered in garish sequins that sparkled like a disco ball. It was the kind of thing you'd find in a clearance bin, not a gift for a 21st birthday. The table erupted. Tara's friends, who she'd insisted on inviting, burst into laughter. "Oh my God, Ellie, it's perfect," Tara said, her voice dripping with fake enthusiasm. "You have to wear it." Her friends chimed in, snapping photos, their giggles echoing through the restaurant. Claire leaned back in her chair, her eyes locked on mine. "I thought it would suit you, dear," she said, her tone so sweet it could have been mistaken for kindness. But I knew better. Those 7 words carried 3 years of her subtle jabs, her constant need to remind me I didn't belong. I forced a smile, my cheeks burning. "Thanks, Claire," I said, folding the sweater back into the box. Her face flickered with something, disappointment maybe. She'd expected me to crumble, to give her a reaction she could twist into another story about ungrateful Ellie. But I didn't. Not that night. I sat back down, the laughter still ringing in my ears, and made a decision. Claire and Tara thought they could break me. They thought that sweater was the final nail in my coffin. But they were wrong. That hideous green monstrosity? It was the spark that lit the fuse. Okay, pause for a second. Have you ever gotten a gift that wasn't really a gift? Something wrapped up all pretty, but when you opened it, you realized it was meant to hurt you? The kind of thing that makes you wonder if you're crazy for feeling stung? Drop your stories in the comments. I want to hear them. Because trust me, I know exactly how that feels. And I also know what it's like to take that hurt and turn it into something else. Claire and Tara thought they'd won, but I was done playing their game. I started planning, quietly, carefully. And at our next family reunion, Claire would learn what happens when you push someone too far. Claire's cruelty wasn't loud. It was sharp, precise, like a needle slipping under your skin. Over the years, I learned to spot her moves before they landed. I'd catch the scent of her special tea, cinnamon and clove wafting from the kitchen, and brace myself. That smell meant she was plotting. One time, it was the family photo. We were all dressed up for my cousin's wedding, and Claire insisted on a big group shot. She fussed over everyone's outfits, adjusting ties and smoothing dresses. When it was my turn, she tilted her head and said, "Oh, Ellie, that dress is bold. Let's put you in the back." She smiled as she shuffled me behind Tara, out of sight. The photo went up on her social media with a caption about our perfect family. I wasn't even visible. Then there was my college applications. I'd spent months working on them, pouring my heart into essays about my mom and my dreams. Claire offered to proofread. I was hesitant, but Dad pushed me to accept. "She's just trying to connect with you, Ellie," he said. When I got the applications back, entire sections were rewritten. My words were gone, replaced with generic fluff about teamwork and community. 2 of my top schools rejected me. Claire just shrugged. "Maybe you aim too high, dear." The worst was the fundraiser sabotage. I'd organized a charity run at school to honor my mom's memory. It was my way of keeping her close. Claire volunteered to help with the budget. Days before the event, she told me we were short on funds because I'd mismanaged things. I scrambled to cover the gap with my savings. At the event, she took the microphone, praising herself for saving the day. People clapped. I stood there, my chest tight, watching her steal something I'd built. Tara made it worse. At school, she'd amplify Claire's games. She'd whisper to her friends during lunch, loud enough for me to hear, "Ellie's so weird, right? No wonder her mom's not around." Her clique would laugh, and I'd eat alone, my sandwich tasting like cardboard. By senior year, I'd stopped trying to fit in. Tara's public jabs were relentless, and my dad? He'd just say, "You're strong, Ellie. Don't let it get to you." Claire lived for appearances. To her, our family wasn't people, it was a performance. She'd host lavish dinners for neighbors, charm my aunts and uncles with stories, and post curated photos online. Every smile, every gesture was staged. She'd built a network of allies, extended family, friends, even the lady next door, who thought she was a saint. "Claire's so generous," they'd say. "You're lucky to have her." I wasn't invisible to them, but I was a prop. If I spoke up, Claire would laugh it off. "Oh, Ellie's just shy." Her allies nodded along, and I'd feel the walls closing in. I stopped going to family events, skipped neighborhood barbecues. It was easier to fade away than to fight her spotlight. But I saw things they didn't. I saw my dad's conflict. I saw the way Dad carried his guilt, even if he didn't say it out loud. He loved me, I knew that, but after Mom died, he was lost. Her absence left him hollow, and he didn't know how to fill the void. Claire came along like a lifeline, bright, confident, someone who made life feel alive again. When I tried to tell him about her, about the way she cut me down, he'd brush it off. "It's just your grief, Ellie," he'd say, or, "Claire's trying to be a mom. Give her time." But I noticed things he tried to hide. Late at night, when Claire's voice turned sharp and cold with me, I'd catch him pausing in the hallway, his shoulders tense. He'd hear it, that edge in her tone, but he'd convince himself it was nothing. I'd see his eyes linger on my face sometimes, quiet and withdrawn, and I knew he saw my pain. "You're tough, Ellie," he'd tell me, like that was enough. Deep down, I think he was scared he'd made a mistake bringing Claire into our home. So he turned away, hoping it'd fix itself. Dad's blindness hurt almost as much as Claire's games. But I wasn't giving up. I was learning to watch, to wait, to find my own way through. One day, I started noticing cracks in Claire's armor. She'd fidget when my aunt asked about her job. She'd snap at Tara if a single fork was out of place before a dinner party. Claire wasn't just obsessed with looking perfect. She was terrified of looking anything less. I got curious. One night, when she left her laptop open, I glanced at her social media. Her private messages were a goldmine. She'd vent to friends about keeping up appearances and proving herself to her family. She wrote about me, too. "Ellie's so difficult. If she'd just play along, this would be easier." It wasn't just control. She was scared I'd ruin her image. Then I found her journal, tucked in a drawer while I was grabbing batteries. Page after page of her handwriting, obsessing over every detail of our family's brand. She'd circled the date of our upcoming family reunion, with notes like, "New dress, flawless menu, no mistakes." It was her Super Bowl, her chance to shine in front of her judgmental relatives. A few days later, I overheard her on the phone, pacing in the backyard. Her voice cracked as she spoke. "Everything has to be perfect. You know how my family is. If they see any flaws in this family, I'm done." For the first time, I saw her not as a monster, but as someone fragile, clinging to a facade. I also saw Tara differently. One night, I caught her staring at a photo of Claire hugging her after a school play. Tara's face was soft, almost desperate. It hit me. Tara wasn't just cruel. She was chasing Claire's approval, something Claire dangled like a carrot. Tara's jabs at me weren't personal. They were her way of staying in her mom's good graces. It didn't excuse her, but it made her human. That's when I knew. Claire's need for perfection was her weakness. The family reunion was her stage, and I'd been handed the script to her downfall. I wasn't going to yell or fight. I was going to let her own game destroy her. The family reunion was Claire's obsession. For weeks, our house turned into her command center. She barked orders about catering, decorations, even the exact shade of napkins. Not ivory, cream. Her laptop overflowed with spreadsheets, and she'd mutter about impressing the aunts while pacing the living room. The reunion wasn't just a party. It was her chance to prove she'd mastered the art of family. She'd written a speech, too. I found a draft on the kitchen counter, pages of her neat handwriting gushing about blending families perfectly. She described Tara as her shining star, and me as her sweet project, a stray she'd kindly taken in. Reading it made my stomach twist. Claire wasn't celebrating us. She was selling a lie. Tara leaned harder into her role as Claire's enforcer. At school, she'd accidentally spilled juice on my backpack, smirking as her friends snickered. Once, she posted a photo of me tripping in the hallway, captioning it, "Ellie's grace in action." Each jab was a bid for Claire's approval, a way to stay her favorite. I kept my head down, but every sting fueled the fire growing inside me. I closed my eyes one night and remembered my mom. I was 8, and we were baking cookies in our old kitchen. Flour dusted her nose, and she laughed as I sneaked a bite of dough. "You're my heart, Ellie," she said, pulling me into a hug. That warmth, that safety, it was gone now. Claire's house was cold, her rules suffocating. Mom's love had been real. Claire's was a performance. The contrast hit me hard. I wasn't just fighting for myself, I was fighting for the person Mom raised me to be. One night, I borrowed Claire's laptop to finish a school project. She'd left her email open, and a message caught my eye. It was to her sister, sent days earlier. My fingers went numb as I read the words on the screen. The blue light of the laptop illuminated tears I refused to let fall. "Ellie's such a burden," Claire wrote. "She's so ungrateful, always sulking. At the reunion, I'll make sure everyone sees I'm the one holding this family together. I've got something special planned for her, a gift to show she's still, well, a work in progress. A gift. Another trap, like the sequined sweater, designed to humiliate me in front of everyone." The email laid out her plan. She'd use the reunion to paint me as the problem, the odd one out, while she played the saint. She wanted to lock me out of the family for good. I sat there, the laptop's hum filling the silence. Claire wasn't just cruel, she was calculated. This wasn't about me misbehaving or fitting in. It was about erasing me from her perfect picture. I shut the laptop and stared at the ceiling. My mind raced. Part of me wanted to take the high road, to keep being the bigger person. I'd done it for 3 years, biting my tongue, swallowing the hurt. But where had it gotten me? I was still the family ghost, present but unseen, fading into the background of Claire's show. I thought about telling Dad. I pictured his tired eyes, his usual response. "Give her a chance, Ellie." He loved me, but he was too tangled in his own guilt to see clearly. Going to him would just mean more excuses, more waiting. I was done waiting. But fighting back scared me too. What if I went too far? What if plotting against Claire made me like her, cold, manipulative, obsessed with winning? The thought twisted in my gut. I didn't want to become the person I hated. I paced my room, my shadow moving across the walls. I remembered Mom's voice, her strength, her kindness. She'd taught me to stand up for myself, but she'd also taught me to be fair. Was revenge fair? Or was it just anger dressed up as justice? Then it hit me. I'd spent 3 years trying to be mature, to be good. And for what? To be Claire's punching bag? To let Tara's laughter drown me out? Maybe it was time to stop being invisible. Maybe it was time to haunt them back. I made my choice. Claire wanted a perfect reunion. I'd give her one she'd never forget. Okay, let's talk. Indoors. That moment when you realize being mature has become another word for being a doormat. What would you have done in my place? Would you keep taking the hits, hoping things get better? Or would you fight back, even if it meant getting your hands dirty? Tell me your thoughts in the comments. I need to know I'm not alone in this. Claire thought she had me cornered. She thought her gift would seal my place as the outsider, but I was done playing her game. The reunion was coming, and so was my plan. I didn't rush. Revenge isn't about speed, it's about precision. Claire thought she'd buried me with that hideous sequined sweater, but she'd handed me a weapon. I just had to figure out how to use it. I started digging into Claire's past. Late nights on my laptop, I scoured old social media posts, family group chats, even public records. Claire's life was a series of reinventions. She'd flopped at a high-profile job years ago, lost friends in a public feud, and moved cities to start fresh. Each time, she rebuilt her image, polishing it until it gleamed. But her family, her aunts, cousins, siblings, knew the truth. They whispered about her episodes and exaggerations. Claire's perfect facade was a house of cards, and the reunion was her chance to keep it standing. That's when I saw it. The sweater wasn't just a jab at me. It was Claire's way of proving she was in control. She'd given me something she thought would destroy me. Instead, I'd use it as the thread to pull apart her carefully knitted lies. The reunion was a week away, and I played my part. For the first time, I volunteered to help Claire. I carried boxes, arranged chairs, even complimented her menu. She raised an eyebrow but didn't push back. I needed her to trust me, to let her guard down. I also worked the family. At a cousin's barbecue, I chatted with my Aunt Linda, who'd always been skeptical of Claire. I mentioned the birthday dinner casually, letting slip how Claire's gift had stung. Linda's face tightened. She'd been at the dinner but hadn't seen the full picture. I did the same with Uncle Mark, planting seeds of doubt without saying too much. Then came the sweater. One evening, I found Claire in the kitchen, sipping her tea. I leaned against the counter, casual as ever. "You know," I said, "I've been thinking. I should wear that beautiful sweater you got me at the reunion. It's so unique." For just a moment, doubt flickered across Claire's face. "You want to wear that?" Her voice was tight, like she was searching for a trap. I smiled my mother's smile, warm, disarming. "Of course, you picked it out specially for me." She nodded slowly, but her eyes lingered on me. Had I overplayed my hand? My stomach nodded. If Claire suspected anything, my plan could collapse before it started. The reunion morning was chaos. Our backyard buzzed with relatives, kids running through sprinklers, tables piled with food. Claire was everywhere, adjusting centerpieces, barking at caterers, her smile stretched thin. She was unraveling before the party even began, her need for perfection eating her alive. I moved quietly, keeping my head down. I complimented Aunt Linda on her dress, laughed with Uncle Mark about old family stories. Every word was deliberate, building trust, setting the stage. Then I made my move with Tara. I found her by the dessert table, fussing with her hair. "Hey," I said, holding out a wrapped box. "I got you something. A sisterhood thing, you know?" Tara blinked, confused, but took it. Inside was the sequined sweater. "Try it on," I urged, my voice soft but firm. "It's bold, like you." Tara hesitated, then shrugged. She slipped it on, the garish green sparkling under the sun. I bit back a smile. Step one was complete. But then Dad pulled me aside. His face was serious, his hand heavy on my shoulder. "Ellie, what's going on? You're acting different." My heart raced. He'd noticed the shift in me, the way I was playing Claire's game. For a second, I wanted to tell him everything, but I couldn't risk it. "Just trying to fit in, Dad," I said, forcing a laugh. He frowned but let me go. I exhaled, my plan still intact, but barely. The moment came during Claire's speech. She stood on a makeshift stage, her voice booming through a microphone about blending families and love that conquers all. The crowd nodded, charmed by her polished delivery. Then she saw Tara. The color drained from Claire's face so quickly, it was like watching sand through an hourglass. 3 years of perfect makeup couldn't hide the panic rising beneath her skin. Tara, clueless, strutted through the crowd in the sequined sweater, the joke gift Claire had used to humiliate me. Whispers started. Aunt Linda leaned toward Uncle Mark, her brow furrowed. I seized the moment. I approached Linda and Mark, my voice low but clear. "That sweater," I said. "Claire gave it to me for my birthday. Said it suited me. Tara thought it was funny too, until I gave it to her today." I didn't lie. I just let the truth do the work. Linda's eyes narrowed. Mark shook his head, muttering, "That's not right." Claire's speech faltered. She stumbled over a line, her hands trembling. The crowd shifted, sensing something off. I stayed in the background, watching her world crack. But I'll be honest, not everything went as planned. I'd expected Tara to wear the sweater longer, to parade it in front of more people. She took it off after 20 minutes, complaining it was itchy. I had to improvise, leaning harder on my conversations with Linda and Mark to spread the story. It worked, but it was messier than I'd hoped. Claire's perfect reunion was crumbling, and I'd lit the match. But as I watched her falter, a part of me wondered, was this enough? Or had I just started something I couldn't control? The reunion was unraveling, and Claire was losing her grip. Her speech had crumbled, her perfect mask slipping as whispers spread through the crowd. I stood near the back, my heart pounding, watching the storm I'd started. Then Claire turned to me, her eyes wild. "Ellie!" she snapped, her voice cutting through the chatter. Heads turned. "You think I didn't know?" Her words wavered, laced with panic. She stepped closer, pointing a trembling finger. "You've been scheming, trying to ruin everything." The backyard fell silent. Even the kids stopped running. My Aunt Linda, standing nearby, tilted her head. "Know what, Claire?" she asked, her voice calm but sharp. And there it was, the trap Claire had set for herself. Her face froze, realization hitting her too late. I mean, she stammered. "Ellie's always been difficult, ungrateful. I've tried so hard." But her voice cracked, and the truth spilled out. "She's never fit in, never appreciated what I've done for this family." Gasps rippled through the crowd. Uncle Mark shook his head, his jaw tight. Linda crossed her arms, her skepticism now certainty. Tara, still wearing the sequined sweater, stared at her mother, her mouth open. I didn't move, didn't speak. I let Claire's words bury her. Tara stepped forward, her voice small. "Mom, you gave Ellie that sweater to make fun of her, and now I'm wearing it. Was I a joke too?" The hurt in her eyes was raw, and for the first time, I saw her as a victim of Claire's games, not just her accomplice. Claire's composure shattered. "No, Tara, you don't understand," she cried, but the crowd was done listening. Her perfect family image was gone, exposed as a lie in front of everyone she tried to impress. The reunion ended early. Relatives left in hushed groups, throwing glances at Claire, who sat alone by the dessert table, her hands shaking. Aunt Linda pulled me aside, her voice firm. "You didn't deserve that, Ellie. I'm sorry I didn't see it sooner." Uncle Mark nodded, promising to have a word with my dad. Dad was quiet, his face heavy with guilt. He'd heard everything, Claire's outburst, Tara's question, the family's reactions. Later that night, he found me in my room. "Ellie," he said, his voice breaking, "I should have listened. I failed you." His words hit hard, but they were a start. Tara was the surprise. The next day, she knocked on my door, her eyes red. "I didn't know," she said. "Mom made it seem like you were the problem. I just wanted her to love me." We didn't hug or cry. It wasn't like that. But we talked. For the first time, I saw her as someone caught in Claire's web too. It wasn't friendship, but it was a truce. I felt strange about it all. I'd won, hadn't I? Claire's lies were exposed, her allies gone. But watching her fall apart, seeing Tara's pain, even hearing Dad's guilt, it didn't feel like victory. It felt heavy, like I'd stirred up something bigger than I'd meant to. Claire left a week later. She called it a break, packing a suitcase and muttering about visiting her sister. Dad didn't argue. The house felt different without her. Her artificial floral scents, sprayed obsessively every morning, were gone. For the first time in 3 years, I could breathe without feeling like I was inhaling poison. Dad tried to make things right. He started small, cooking breakfast, asking about my day, really listening. One night, he apologized again, his voice steady this time. "I let you down, Ellie, but I'm here now." It wasn't perfect, but it was progress. We were rebuilding, one honest conversation at a time. Tara kept her distance, but she stopped her jabs. She'd started therapy, something about figuring herself out. The family dynamic shifted, less tense, more real. Aunt Linda checked in weekly, and Uncle Mark invited me to his summer barbecue. I wasn't the ghost anymore. I was part of the family, seen and heard. 6 months later, I'm still sorting through it all. I don't regret standing up to Claire. Her lies needed to be exposed, and I needed to reclaim my place. But I think about the cost sometimes. Tara's hurt, Dad's guilt, even Claire's panic as her world collapsed. Did I go too far? Or was it the only way to break free? I learned something important. Standing up for yourself doesn't mean becoming the person who hurt you. It means drawing a line saying, no more. But it's a tightrope. Lean too far, and you risk losing yourself. I'm still figuring out where that balance lies. The sweater? I still have it, folded in a drawer. Not as a trophy, but as a reminder. Sometimes the things meant to break us become the tools that set us free. Okay, let's talk. They say revenge doesn't heal the wound, but sometimes standing up for yourself is the first stitch in closing it. What do you think? Does justice bring closure, or just more complications? Share your thoughts in the comments. I'm curious to hear your stories.